Good evening and welcome again to our Facebook Live Parent Education Series. We're happy to have everyone back. This is our third session and we are so happy that you all are tuning in to these important topics. We started, I think, in January or early February talking about online safety. Then we moved earlier in March. We talked about suicide awareness, and tonight will be our third and final parent education series topic for this school year. And tonight we're talking about vaping. And I am very happy to have with us this evening Erica High, who is a certified health education specialist with Union County Human Services, and also Dr. Carolyn Ford, who is a professor emeritus and former director in community healthcare outreach for Wingate University School of Pharmacy, otherwise known as retired, right? Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you both for being here to talk about this very important topic. We know many parents are dealing with vaping with their students and with their children. So we really want to provide information about how to spot a vape, some of the dangers of vaping, some of the things that will really impact your teen, and also talk about the different age groups. We're now seeing vaping at a much younger age. So we just want our parents and families to be informed about vaping and all the things that come along with it. So let's get started, and we will start with what is an e-cigarette?
An e-cigarette, which is also called an electronic cigarette, is an electronic device that produces an aerosol or vapor that contains either nicotine, sometimes it contains marijuana, THC, and in a variety of ages, a variety of substances can be put into the vapor. An e-cigarette is also called vapes, mods, a lot of different names and so forth. But basically, it's an electronic device that's used to produce a vapor to inhale, to smoke.
And I think one of the things that parents may want to know, like, how does an e-cigarette work? Like, what are the different components of this electronic device that causes a vapor or things like that? How does it work?
Okay. So an e-cigarette has three parts. It has the mouthpiece. It has an atomizer. Another name for an atomizer is a coil, and it has a battery. So all of them have that in common. And so basically the way that it works is that you inhale a puff on the e-cigarette, and the juice that's in there, the vape juice, is heated up with the atomizer or the coil, and it vaporizes to smoke that allows them to inhale it.
Interesting.
Okay.
So the four parts again, there's a mouthpiece, there's an atomizer which heats up the liquid into an aerosol, the cartridge, and then the battery which supplies the source for it.
Right,
basically.
right. There's an electronic chip in most of them, so when you inhale, it triggers the battery to come on. And so once the battery comes on, it heats up the atomizer, which then heats up the e-liquid to vaporize it.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So what is in a vaping liquid? We see it, we know the different components. What chemicals are in these devices?
Okay. There are three basic components of e-liquid. There is sometimes nicotine.
Okay.
There is propylene glycol, which is a substance that allows it to stay in solution. There is, what's the other ingredient? Okay, yeah, so you got propylene glycol, you have
Glycerin?
I'm sorry?
Glycerin?
Glycerin, right, propylene glycol, glycerin, and your nicotine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of chemistry that's going on within these vapes and the liquid inside. Can you break down a little bit of what some of these are?
Okay. For the most part, the liquid that the nicotine and other products are suspended in, you have this agent called the propylene glycol, which is more of an agent that keeps things in suspension. Okay, and the glycerin allows it to be able to be more fluid-like, and so when you mix them together, you can have you have the vape liquid.
Okay.
The thing that really changes is the amount of nicotine. So some of these solutions claim that they have 0 nicotine, but the ones that are from the manufacturers can have up to 20, 50 milligrams of nicotine in them.
And this is the same nicotine we're talking about that's in cigarettes, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
I know that's a myth sometimes when we talk about vaping, that it's there's no nicotine in it, but this is the same nicotine with cigarettes.
Right. So the vapes that are prepared, that you actually purchase that are sealed, whatever they have stamped on them probably is correct. So one of the more popular vapes that is available now, the F-Bar, you can buy them that have 0 nicotine in them. However, if you go to a vape shop where they actually compound it, there's no way that you will know how much nicotine or other substances that are in that product. Okay?
Awesome.
Right.
So this is something that was mind blowing to me, all of the different flavors that there are when it comes to vapes. I was looking at a picture and I saw something that looked like a Sprite, saw something that was strawberry, it looked like sodas, looked like, you know, sweet treats for children. Let's talk about some of the flavors.
Right. Flavoring is probably the #1 agent that attracts youth to utilize e-cigarettes. And there's been a lot of discussion, possible legislation to try to deal with that. And it's done purposely. That's why the flavors are things that children usually like your Sprite, your juicy fruit, things like that. And even mint and menthol flavors, the youth are getting involved in those. So what's happened with flavoring is, because we know that that is the main attractive source for youth wanting to try it, they've tried to get flavoring banned.
Okay.
And so they were able to get flavoring banned for the e-cigarettes that you have to compound. But for the ones that are disposable, which is the type that most youth utilize, it is not banned. So the disposable ones is the one that has all of the different types of flavoring. One of the most common types of e-cigarettes, the F-Bar, the last time I looked, it had 60 different flavors.
Wow, so it's like a candy shop almost.
It's like a candy shop.
To help attract that for our kids.
Right.
And I think in a recent study that was done across the nation, I think the last time that they checked, there was about 17,000 different flavors that are available to kids. So it's, you know, it's not just that you're able to get one, you're able to get a very specific flavoring that you like. You know? It's not just basic flavorings like strawberry. It's like strawberry and guava, strawberry and watermelon. So it's very personalized to the taste of that specific child.
Correct. Oh, wow, this is very interesting and very, very good information. Let's switch gears a little bit to talk about what's in an e-cigarette aerosol and kind of break down that information for our audience.
All right, so the aerosol that is produced when the e-liquid touches the atomizer or the coil, it produces that vapor or that aerosol. And there are compounds that are in it. So we know that there's propylene glycol, there's glycerin, and there's nicotine. So when the propylene glycol and glycerin are sort of metabolized or broken down, it releases all of these other chemicals. You have formaldehyde, you have tin, you have lead, you have different chemicals that are harmful to the body that are actually produced as a result of those products being broken down by the heat.
And that's what I'm reading in my notes here. When you say propylene glycol, that's also used in antifreeze, right? These are chemicals that are used in our vehicles.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And also heavy metals, nickel,
Right.
tin, and lead,
Right.
and the nicotine as well.
Right. And those heavy metals have been linked to different types of cancer and certain type of lung disease. It can cause irritation to the lungs. So they have products, or they have chemicals in them that are actually harmful to the body.
Wow. Well, I think there's so many types of vapes, right? And it's hard to recognize what they are. And we want to help our parents to understand what types of vapes there are out there. So coming up on your screen should be different types of vapes and different shapes and sizes and colors. And so we want you just to study that for just a second to see what the different types are. And then now we're going to show you those vapes.
All right. So like she said, what is up on your screen right now is a different types of vapes, but they're mixed in with some everyday ordinary products. So are you able to tell which one is actually a vape? And would you be able to recognize this maybe on your child's desk or in their backpack? So we'll give you a second just to kind of look at this and determine which ones you think are vapes. And here's a little hint for you. There are 6 vapes on your screen.
I think we changed it up a little bit. It's probably 4.
4?
I think it's 4, yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll give you just another second. All right, and they should be showing you now which products are actually vapes. And so as you can see, it can be very hard to determine which products are vapes and which ones are everyday products. So it just makes it difficult for parents to be able to distinguish what is actually in their child's backpack.
Right, what may look like an ink pen, what may look like, I don't know, a thumb drive, what may look like just a normal everyday object can actually be a vape.
Right.
Yeah, and so parents, this is just another reminder of, we talk about checking your child's backpacks and school bags just to make sure that they have the appropriate objects in their bag, right?
Right. And then another thing, they make skins for vapes. And what those skins are things that look like normal products that they can disguise it further. So you can have a juicy fruit skin, you can have highlighter skin, but it's actually just the outer covering that's covering up the vape.
And there was one that I saw that to me looked exactly like a highlighter, and I probably wouldn't have known the difference in it. The one with the purple top there, these
Yes.
they look like highlighters, you know, and so not knowing that that's what's inside of them.
Right.
So let's talk about some brands of the vapes. I know, just looking at the research here, there are lots of different brands, but there's one that stands out that you all wanted to highlight.
That one is called the Elf Bar. And the Elf Bar is probably the most popular brand that the youth consume today. According to the survey, 57% of them chose the Elf Bar. And it comes in a variety of colors, a variety of flavors, and it also comes in different types of systems. So you got the stick brand, that's the one that the youth probably will have the most. You have ones that you can insert a cartridge, and then you have one that you can actually have a tank system.
Wow.
So it comes in a variety of different formats for the youth to use. But out of all of those formats, the stick or the cartridge disposable one is the most common.
Why is that? Is there a reason for that?
Well, with the disposable shapes, you don't have to charge it.
Okay.
It's pre-charged, and all they have to do is do their puffing and begin to use it. It's small enough to conceal. It's one of the ones that has the 60 different flavors of choice, and the cost is between $2 and $5
Wow.
to purchase one of those. So it's affordable.
Mhm.
It comes in the flavor that they like. It's easily transportable, it's concealable, and they don't have to charge it.
Wow, that's interesting. That's very, very interesting. Okay, now we're going to transition to talking about some data, I believe is what we have next, which is really this vaping by the numbers is what you guys called it in North Carolina. So 1 in 8 high school students currently use a tobacco product. 1 in 8. Let's talk a little bit about the rest of the data that we have here for middle and high school students.
Okay. So this data was collected by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and there's a survey that's put out every year to all of the North Carolina students. And it just kind of gauges their beliefs and usage of tobacco products. And so it looks at students between the grades of 6 and 12.
Okay.
So the data that is provided to you was from the 2022 survey that was conducted. And so, like you said, 1 in 8 students that were surveyed reported using tobacco products. And that's any tobacco products. So it's not just your vapes, it's your combustible cigarettes, pouches, things like that. But that averages out to about 1 in 3 students.
Really?
So that's a very high number. And if you kind of break that down a little bit more, that's 57,000 high school students and 18,000 middle school students that are using these products. And e-cigarettes do continue to be the #1 product in North Carolina, with over 43,000 high school students and 12,000 middle school students saying that they use these devices. And it's followed by, like I said, your regular cigarettes, your little cigars, cigarillos, and regular cigars as well.
That number, when you think about that across the state, is that high? Is that low? Is that over the years? Have we seen that since vaping has come along? Has that number increased?
Yes. So, back a couple of decades ago, there was a very high number of people that were using tobacco products, and efforts started going into that. And we were seeing a decrease in those numbers, but unfortunately, with the introduction of these new products, that number has slowly started to creep up.
I was talking to someone over the weekend preparing for this show, and we're talking about all the campaigns that there were over the years in the 80s and the 90s about, not smoking, no smoking, all of those things. And I'm sure that maybe that's where we saw the decreases, but now we're seeing an increase again.
Yes.
So let's talk about the numbers in the United States. We talked about North Carolina, but nationwide, about 2.8 million youth currently use tobacco products.
Yes, absolutely. And so if you kind of average that out, we are, as North Carolina, pretty much on par. So nationally, 12.6 high school students, 12.6% of high school students and 6.6% of middle school students are using these products. So like I said, we're pretty much on par for the national average, but these are still very high and concerning numbers.
Absolutely.
I don't want to kind of minimize that by saying we're with the national average. They are still very high. And 2.1 million students were surveyed, and they said that they do use these products, e-cigarette products, making them the most popular device for 10 years in a row.
Really?
So they have continued to grow since their introduction to the market back in 2007, and they've just kind of dominated for the past decade.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, just growing. It's a growing trend now. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about youth and nicotine dependence. I think sometimes our youth and their peers say, "Oh, I'm fine. There's nothing to get addicted to when it comes to vapes. I could handle it. I could stop anytime I want." But we have data to support that there's dependence on that. They can get really dependent on these products.
Right. So as you're seeing, 27% of high school students and 20% of middle school students want to use one of these products within 1 hour of waking up, which is extremely high.
Yes.
And one thing to keep in mind is that the quicker that response is from the time that they're waking up to when they are using these products is linked to their dependence on these products. So if they are, getting that signal telling them that they need to use their vape within 5 minutes, that dependence is much stronger than if, say, it's someone that can go an hour of waking up. But just keep in mind, that 1 hour, that's the time that they're getting ready to go to school.
That's what I was thinking about. That means that these students are vaping from the time they leave their home and then traveling to school.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of correlates with that. And then 25% of high school users and 33% of middle school users said that they cannot make it through the school day without needing to use their products.
Right.
So think about how much time is spent on thinking of that. Okay, when can I use my vape the next time?
Right.
They're getting distracted from their schoolwork. They're not able to concentrate on their test, on their assignments. So it's messing with their schoolwork. And this can, of course, lead to decrease in attention, and lead to
Behavior
those lower
issues.
grades, behavior
Right.
issues, especially if they're becoming irritable, because that is all that is kind of they're able to concentrate on.
Right.
It can definitely lead to kind of a domino effect that will ultimately affect their school life.
Just looking at the data and talking through it, just really makes you think about what's in the vapes and the impact that it's having on health and mental health and just all of the things that go along with that. But the good news is there are lots of youth who want to stop and want to quit using tobacco products. And so we have some numbers on that as well. And then we're definitely going to get into some resources on how to help them quit and some programs that they could access.
Yes. So 64% of high school students and 68% of middle school students that are currently using these products have said that they tried to make a quit attempt.
Okay.
So that is very indicative of them wanting to quit. They're starting to notice those red flags of being dependent, of not being able to make it through the day without needing these products. So that number is very encouraging for us. The unfortunate part is that most of them feel like they have to kind of keep that hidden and that they have to go on that journey alone. And they try to quit what we know is like cold turkey.
Yes.
And so unfortunately, that's the method of just completely quitting all at once or attempting to quit all at once. But this is not a very effective method. You need that support. You need some type of intervention to really be successful. And with that cold turkey method, you're not getting that.
And we have to think about it. These are children. These are
Yes.
children and teens who may not know how to do that. They, like you said, they need support. It's a feeling of, well, I know I need to, but how do I do that? And they may be embarrassed to tell an
Yes.
adult about it, to know that, to find the resources.
And have that fear of, if I do tell them that I'm using these products and I need to quit, that kind of like, I'm going to be punished feeling,
right.
And wanting to avoid that.
Well, we have lots of support in Union County Public Schools. We have lots of people who can help. So if there are any teens or parents who are watching, we will have resources for you coming up in a few minutes. Our student support department is fabulous, and we have lots of counselors and therapists and others who could definitely help with that. So I just want to make that little plug while we were there. Let's talk about the harmful effects of nicotine and what it does and what's all in it and what signs parents might see when it comes to nicotine.
Well, nicotine is a drug, and it's a drug that is known to be a stimulant. And because it's a stimulant, it produces certain effects in the body. Increases your heart rate, increases your blood pressure, things of that nature. What it does, when you inhale nicotine, it affects what is called your pleasure centers in your brain. It makes you feel good, okay? And normally we release a substance called dopamine, which is the pleasure hormone in the body. So when you start taking nicotine, the natural amount of dopamine that is released starts to drop off. And so the primary source that you're getting is from the cigarette. And so you have to keep, from the e-cigarette or the vape. So you have to keep using it to continue to get that same feeling that you were getting before. And that's the journey towards becoming dependent and addiction.
And I see you talked about the blood pressure and heart rate, but it can also affect attention, your learning, your mood, and things of that nature, right?
Right. Yeah, it affects, in youth especially, it affects certain parts of the brain. And the part of the brain that is critical to developing your mood, your attention span, and so forth is directly impacted. And the problem is that when you're young, those areas are not fully developed. And so when you introduce a drug product like nicotine, it affects the development of those. And because of that, you start to see the behavioral effects, the changes in personality, etc. And unfortunately, the younger the person who consumes the nicotine, the more you see these effects.
So parents should be on the lookout for some of these things, maybe mood changes and, just the impulse or things like that.
Right.
It could have that impact.
Yes. Decreased attention span, a decrease from the normal activities that they would normally like to do, like sports, etc. More secrecy, hiding things when you walk into the room, using colognes or sprays, all of a sudden to cover up the smell. Or if you just all of a sudden walk through the room and you smell fruity scents, etc., that's probably an e-cigarette that was being utilized. So they tend to spray air fresheners too to try to cover up the scent.
Interesting. Anything else you want to add there?
No, I think she covered it very well.
I noticed one thing about appetite as well, and that's another area to be on the lookout for.
Right. It can increase in some and it can decrease in others. A lot of people, I don't know if you noticed that when some people smoke, they tend to it tends to decrease their appetite, and so they use cigarettes as a weight control. And you see when people start to come off of cigarettes, they tend to start to gain weight. You see the same effect with e-cigarettes.
Another impact is that e-cigarette use is linked to use of other substances. And I think that's a very important topic to kind of talk about. Can we get into that just a little?
There's more data that shows that it can be a gateway. That's the term that we use when we start using a substance that is not as potent and we graduate to something else. And so what's important about the e-cigarettes is that they do cost money, and the students do become dependent, and in some cases can become addicted. And so if money sources are an issue, especially depending on the background of the individual, they may switch over to something else to get that nicotine. And so they start to consume regular cigarettes. And so a lot of kids who use e-cigarettes are dual users. They use e-cigarettes and they smoke cigarettes, regular cigarettes. Also, because you now are sort of dependent on getting that stimulated effect, it opens you up to experiment with other drugs and so forth. And so you start seeing increase in use of marijuana. And one interesting thing that I don't think we mentioned before is that in the vape juice you can have THC added, which is the active component of marijuana. So you see a lot of youth starting to vape THC, and then that can graduate to other things. Right.
And there's some illnesses related to vaping, right?
Right. There's one illness that they recently identified called EVALI, and that is a lung disorder where you get this type of pneumonia from it. And what they found is that the vape juice was contaminated by a chemical. And once you inhale that chemical into the lung, it irritated the lung tissue and damaged them to cause the EVLI.
And according to the CDC, as of February 2020, there were nearly 70 deaths and 2,800 illnesses related to EVLI.
Yes, and that is more commonly related to the devices that you use as a tank that you fill yourself. You don't see it as frequently in the disposable ones because you're not adding extra chemicals to it.
Okay. Lots of awesome information here.
Yes. Other thing related to the lungs, the individuals who vape tend to be more susceptible to COVID.
Okay.
So I think they get it 5 times rate higher than the normal person. It's because they've irritated their lung tissue with smoking the e-cigarette.
And then this is a big term here, but bronchiolitis obliterans.
Right. Popcorn lung.
Okay, popcorn lung. Yes.
That's also due to some of the actual chemicals that are in the vape juice, or the byproducts of the chemicals that are in the vape juice. So when you are burning this liquid, it's generating all of these byproducts, and the vaping, they're inhaling it deep in the lungs, and as a result, and some of them are holding it, to form circles and so forth. And while you're doing that, it's scarring and damaging the lungs. And one of the diseases that has been identified is the popcorn lung.
So lots of major health concerns when it comes to vaping and e-cigs. So a few other risks. We talked about the explosions and the fires. I know e-cigs have evolved over the years, and that was probably an older model. But now there's still second and third hand exposure and then nicotine poisonings, right?
Yes, absolutely. The explosions can occur with the disposable, but not as frequent as the big systems that you had to charge. And the disposables, as I mentioned earlier, are already pre-charged.
Okay.
So that's eliminating a lot of that problem. However, if those vapes are mishandled, like left in the sun, dropped in water, they can still explode, but not at the level that they were doing before, when everybody was using tanks and charging devices and so forth. Any device that has a battery can explode. In terms of secondhand and third-hand smoke, so if you are in the classroom or in a car with someone who's vaping, and they are vaping a e-cig that has a high concentration of nicotine, you are inhaling it as well. Wow. And then the third-hand smoke is if someone vapes constantly in their homes, and they vape a lot and highly concentrated vapes, the vapor settles into your furniture, the fabric, etc., and then when you sit down on it, it rises up and you inhale it. So that's the third-hand exposure to e-cigarettes. And with babies and things like that, they are getting exposed.
At a very early age, very, very early age. So a parent might be wondering, how can they tell if their teen is vaping? They haven't seen anything, they're not noticing anything just yet. But I think after watching this, we have some parents who might do some research. But how can they tell? What are some of the signs that a parent may need to look for?
You can see their eyes may be glassy, dry mouth, nosebleeds that they didn't have before may start to occur. And then the other things that I mentioned before about the whiffs of scented, as you walk into the room, you can smell the candy flavor. Things like that are some signs that the child may be vaping.
When you said the nosebleeds, I kind of paused for a minute. Like, what would cause that?
Well, inhaling and constantly smoke irritating the veins in in your nostrils can lead to nosebleeds.
Okay. And you also talked about increased secrecy. If you walk in a room and they kind of trying to hide something or notice that something is off.
Right. And then having devices like pens, flash drives that you are not familiar with. They have all of these decorative things, maybe even sometimes clothing
Okay.
that can be used as vape devices because they, have the tools, the hoses inside
Yeah.
of them where they can hide the vape.
Okay.
So,
Okay. All right. So now I think we're going to talk about some resources. We've talked about, we know what an e-cig is now. We know what's in it. We know the impact that it has on our students. And now we're going to talk about some free quit resources.
Yes. So we're here for the whole family,
Correct.
not just for the students. So the very first resource and the best resource that we have here in North Carolina is our Quit Line. So this is a free resource that is available to anyone that is living in North Carolina. And other states, of course, have their own version of it. But this is only for individuals that are over the age of 18. But I felt like it was still important to provide this information as a resource for any parents that may be using these products as well. We know that, to get your children to maybe quit, lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are using these devices, we do advise that you try to quit as well, to encourage your child as well, or to prevent them from starting using these
Or
products.
they may have older kids in the home who may
Yes.
need some assistance.
Correct. So again, while it's not covered for UCPS students, it's still very important. And there is a youth version that I'll go over in just a moment of this program. And most of us are familiar with the Quit Line, but they have expanded in the last couple of years
Okay.
to be a little more accessible. So not only are they a call line, but they do have online and a text-based resource as well. And if you use any type of tobacco product, you're able to use this resource.
Let's give out that number. I think it's on the screen, but I do want to mention it. This is the 1-800-QUIT-NOW.
Yes.
And then text READY to 200-400.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, that is. And the great thing about this program is that when you do either call or text, and even there's an online kind of like direct messaging option, you're automatically put in contact with a quit coach. So you have that support. You have someone that has lived experience on the line with you saying, hey, I understand what you're going through. This is what we can do. This is what we can offer. And for anyone that does not have insurance, the great thing about this program is that they're able to provide free nicotine replacement therapies.
Oh, that's awesome.
So this is going to be your nicotine patches, gums, and lozenges that have been shown effective to helping in kind of that cessation journey and really make it stick. But they're also there for that kind of intervention side. So if you're struggling, if you're having a hard time, you can give this line a call or a text, and they're able to be there for you and help you kind of go through that difficult moment that you may be experiencing.
So this is the NC Quit Line, and that number again is 1-800-QUIT-NOW. And you could also text READY to 200-400.
And this is also provided in Spanish, which I think is important to highlight, as we do have a Spanish-speaking community in the county.
Awesome. All right, there are some other ones that we have, the Live Vape Free NC.
Yes. So this is for youth only.
Okay.
So it is focused for those that are between the ages of 13 to 17. So for the students that are going to UCPS. So the great thing about this is that they are trying to what we call meet the youth where they're at.
Okay.
So this is a text-based only service. So it goes completely through their phone. They never have to make a call, but they are still in contact with those quit coaches. And we will provide the number for that.
We have that one. I think it's up on your screen now, and that one is text Vape Free NC to 873-373, and you can also text Coach to 873-373. And I notice here they have videos, they have quizzes, podcasts, all things that our students are in tune with right now, right?
Yes. So this is, a fairly recent program that they've come out with, so it's very new they have brought in youth.
Okay.
So this is very centralized around what works for our youth.
Mhm.
So it's not someone that youth aren't connected to. It is youth themselves that have come up with this program.
I love this. And I'm going to go over that number one more time. Text Vape Free NC to 873-373 or text Coach to 873-373. And there will be someone who will text them right back and begin the conversation about how to become vape free.
And parents are also able to use this resource as well. There's information on there that you can sign up for that will help you learn how to talk with your child, give you the resources that you need that you can share with them as well.
Very valuable. Very, very valuable. And then there is Smoke Free. You want to talk through
Yes.
that one?
So that is going to be a national
Okay.
line, but again, it is all text-based.
Okay.
That is the great thing about all of these programs. Again, they are meeting children where they're at. So this is a program that is for children, again, 13 and up. And so the program will last for 6 to 8 weeks, and that's just to make sure that they have that support that they need during the hardest time of their quit journey. And then there is some follow-up that does take place with that. So they'll be asked to provide some information about the types of products that they're using, but this is to make messaging very specific to them. So it's very personalized. Again, we know that having that connection with that quit coach is very important, and feeling supported and being successful in their attempt.
And again, a parent can also text to this number and speak to an adult about how to support their child through this journey.
Yes.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And they kind of come up with a quit plan for that child to really be able to give them that support and make it a very approachable way to quit.
Yes, yes. And then the last resource we talked about was This Is Quitting. Is this another text line?
Yes, it sure is. And again, the one thing that you'll find similar with this is that they do have those quit coaches that are there to support as well. That's very key, to have that trusted adult.
Yes.
But the good thing about it is you don't just have to have these programs. They're a great addition, but having a trusted adult that those children can go to is critical during their quit journey. But we will provide the number for
Sure.
This Is Quitting.
Yes. We can text Ditch Vape to 88709. And this one is for ages 13 to 24, so a longer span of age. Yeah, yeah. Again, that's Ditch Vape to 88709. And parents can text QUIT to 202-899-7550.
And again, all of their messaging is centered around youth that have previous experience vaping, that kind of sat down and come up with, well, this is what helped me, and this is what will help other youth. So that message is very, again, personalized to the youth.
Well, ladies, we have come to the end of our presentation. This information was extremely valuable. I really do hope that our parents listen, watch, share this information on their social media platforms to educate others about e-cigs and vaping. The number of resources out here is great. I mean, there's tons of numbers that you can call and get information about how to quit and just get that support that you all talked about. In addition, for our families, please remember that we have counselors, we have therapists, we have lots of resources in our school buildings. Our principals all can help connect you all with someone who can support you if you need assistance in working with your students around vaping and e-cigs. Any final remarks from you all?
So while this is a growing trend, there is hope at the end of this, that there are resources that are available to our youth, and just again reminding parents to be that support for their child is critical, and helping them overcome this dependence.
Well, thank you so very much. We appreciate the information and all of your expertise around this topic. This is our last Facebook Live Parent Education Series for the school year. Thank you all for watching, and we'll be back next school year with more topics. Have a good evening.